Hi everybody and welcome back to Smart Home Improvement people today. So I thought I'd speak to everybody about how much do conservatories cost on average in 2025, because obviously it's a massive minefield and it's one of the questions I always get asked. How much do they cost? Do you need planning permission? What can I get? Taking into account the type of property I have. Now, when it comes to the question, okay, in my view, it's a right pain in the neck to actually answer. Okay, because normally what people would do, okay, and this is the general rule that people do to me, is say, right, I want a 3x3 conservatory as an example. How much is it? And the fundamental problem with that is, one, I don't know the condition of the land where it's going on. Don't know what type of conservatory you want. Don't know if you want brick-based one, UPVC-based one, timber-based one, where how much glass is it going to be involved? Do you want lots of windows? Do you want few windows? Do you want bifold doors? Do you want French doors? Do you want a normal traditional UPVC door to go out to the garden? Do you want a tiled roof, polycarbonate roof, a glass roof? All of that affects the price. Because the reality is, if you want a tiled roof, okay, which then means you need planning permission, okay, it's going to be way more than if you're having a polycarbonate roof. If you have a normal traditional UPVC door, that's going to be way cheaper than if you're having a bifold door put in. So this is why I cringe when anybody ever asks me, can you give me a price on a 3x3 conservatory? It's an impossible question to answer unless you have more fundamental information. So what we're going to do today is just basically look at the average costs across the country. Okay, what the average charge is. Now it does vary from company to company. Okay, and if they've got offers on and how good the sales rep is as well. Okay, because a lot of sales reps are going really high and they'll spend, 3-4 hours in there talking complete twaddle. Okay, and then before you know, he's been there for 3 hours and then he's going to spend 30 minutes giving you a price. And by that time, as an old friend of mine who used to work for SafeStart, and I appreciate SafeStart don't really do conservatories. Okay, and this is his old tactics. Okay, and then they get to like him, and then if, say for instance, he was a double glazing salesman, he said, right, £10,000, and it was only a job really well paid, and that's the typical sales tactics. But we're not going to go on that tangent today. We're just going to look at the prices. So the reality is, the most common conservatory that people get in the UK currently is the lean-to conservatory. I know my mum used to have one. They're very common. Okay, so the average cost, if you're going to get one, you need to budget somewhere in the region of £9,000 to £15,000. That's a realistic budget to be able to get yourself a half decent build. Okay, now obviously, like I've already said, it does depend on what company, and if you are going to a bigger company, the likes of your Fast Home Improvements who are based in Norwich, Anglian, based in Norwich, yet again, Everest, if you go to their own company, you got to expect to pay a bit more, okay, but as a general rule, that's what you're going to be looking at. Now, then you've got the Victorian and Edwardian Conservatory. Now, I always say they're pretty similar. There are some fundamental differences, okay, as the Victorian Conservatory has a pitched roof and it goes slightly rounded at the front, where the Edwardian is squared on. And then that's the basic real difference. There's not a lot of difference between a Victorian and Edwardian, okay, but there is a difference in price. Okay, there is a fundamental difference in price. So a Victorian conservatory, based on a 3.5 by 3.5, you're looking somewhere in the ballpark of having to set a budget of about 12 to 17,500 pounds, based on, dependent on the spec. Obviously you can pay way more than that. Okay, obviously if you're getting a bigger one, you know, if you're going to go down the route of getting a tiled roof, or you change that to a glass roof, because this is basing it on polycarbonate roofs at the end of the day. But if you're going to go for a different type of roof, it's going to add more on the price, and also the different types of doors that are available adds more to the price. Where with the Edwardian, starts at a lower, at around 10,500, and obviously it's as high as you're willing to go at the end of the day. Okay, so those are the three main types of conservatories that you can get. Now, obviously, if you do go down the wood route, okay, you are going to be paying a bit more. So with the Victorian Conservatory, you're realistically starting at around about 16 grand instead of 12. And with the Edwardian Conservatory, instead of starting at 10.5, you're looking at starting at around about 13,500 pounds. Okay, now the other one that I'm going to include, because it's one that I actually quite like, but not many people come in for them, because there is a fundamental cost implication, and that is the Orangery. Okay, now at the end of the day, the Orangery is just a luxury thing. You know, there is a big difference between a conservatory and an Orangery, because it's brick based. You know, I always say it's a half and half between an extension and a conservatory, because it's still square based. Okay, it has the lantern roof on top, but it's basically brick based. Because if you look at a conservatory, conservatories are normally considered as a product which is going to let a lot of ambient light in, so it can be a bit of a sun trap. That's why a lot of people complain, I don't want to do the old double glazed conservatory roof pitch, gets too hot in the summer and gets way too cold in the winter. Now with the Orangery, it's a lot easier, just like a sunroom, it's much easier to regulate that and to be able to control the temperatures at the end of the day, because of the way that they're built. But there is a fundamental problem in price, where you're basically looking at starting somewhere in the region of about 25 to 30 grand. Okay, so they are fundamentally way more expensive. But if you don't want the art of the typical conservatory, where it is a sun trap, you've got three options. You go down the Orangery route, which are lovely things. Well, I'm not just saying that, they truly are. Okay, you've got the Orangery, you've got the sunroom, or you've got the extension. Okay, all three of them are pretty much basically brick based, and they're all going to be in roughly the same kind of ballpark. You're going to be looking at 30 grand plus. Okay, so I hope that helps everybody out, okay, when it comes to costing. Obviously, there is a lot of difference from company to company. You can get good deals. Okay, so just because I say that that's what it starts at, traditionally that is what they start at, but companies are always doing offers. Double glazing or conservatory companies are always willing to drop the price if you're willing to haggle with them. Don't be afraid to try and bargain. I know it's not the traditional English thing to do, British thing to do, but do it and they will give you a better deal. So I hope this helps everybody out today. Okay, if you've got any questions, don't hesitate, just drop me a comment on here, or you can come to our website, which is www.smarthomeimprovement.people.co.uk, and no problem, just drop me a message and I'll try and get back to you. But for now, thanks for watching, and we'll speak to you again a bit later.